Imagine this. The United States Navy, the most powerful maritime force in the history of human civilization, has 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, 90 destroyers and cruisers, 70 submarines, and over 290,000 active personnel cannot take a 21-mile wide body of water. Not because of another superpower, not because of Russia, not because of China, because of a country with a GDP smaller than that of Norway, a country under decades of economic sanctions, a country that still uses military equipment it bought in the 1970s, Iran and the Strait of Ормуз. This isn't a story about who has the bigger military. This is a story about geography, asymmetric warfare, and why the United States, for all its overwhelming firepower, finds itself in a trap it cannot shoot its way out of. This is the story of why the world's most important waterway, the choke point through which 20% of the world's entire oil supply flows, remains under the de facto control of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now let's address the fantasy that many people have. The United States could simply send in its navy, establish control, and open the strait by force if Iran tried to close it. This idea fundamentally misunderstands what military dominance actually means in the 21st century, and it ignores the specific geography and military doctrine that Iran has spent 4 decades perfecting. The United States Navy was built for blue water warfare, open ocean battles, carrier strike groups projecting power over vast distances, air superiority, and strategic deterrence. It is extraordinarily good at what it was designed to do. But the Strait of Ормуз is not blue water. It is a shallow, narrow, enclosed body of water, the worst possible environment for a carrier strike group. Aircraft carriers, those floating cities of American power, need space to maneuver. They need depth to avoid being cornered. In the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Ормуз, they become extraordinarily vulnerable. In 2002, the United States military conducted one of the largest and most expensive war simulations in history, the Millennium Challenge 2002. The exercise was designed to test American military dominance against a hypothetical adversary modeled closely on Iran. The enemy commander, retired Marine General Paul Van Riper, employed unconventional tactics, small fast boats, unexpected attack vectors, swarm warfare. The result? Van Riper's simulated forces sank 16 American naval vessels, including an aircraft carrier, on the first day of combat. The exercise had to be restarted with Van Riper's forces artificially neutered for the Americans to win. That was 2002. Iran has spent the last 2 decades building, refining, and expanding exactly the kind of asymmetric warfare capability that destroyed an entire carrier strike group in a simulation. Now let's get specific, because this is where it gets genuinely alarming. Iran's strategy for the Strait of Ормуз is not to match the United States in a conventional naval battle. That would be suicidal. Instead, Iran has spent decades developing what military analysts call an anti-access area denial strategy known as A2A. The goal is not to defeat the American Navy. The goal is to make operating in or near the Strait of Ормуз so costly, so dangerous, and so unpredictable that it becomes strategically untenable. Here is the arsenal they have built to do exactly that. Iran operates one of the largest and most diverse inventories of anti-ship missiles in the world. Their domestically produced anywhere missile, a copy and upgrade of the Chinese C-82, has a range of 170 kilometers and is sea-skimming, meaning it flies 5 to 15 meters above the water surface, making it extremely difficult to detect on radar. Iran has deployed these missiles not just on ships but on mobile launches in the Zagros Mountains, along the coastline, in hardened underground facilities, and on the islands it controls inside the strait itself. More recently, Iran unveiled the Abwari missile, a cruise missile with a range of over 700 kilometers and a high-precision guidance system. This can reach targets far beyond the strait, including U.S. bases in the region. Iran also operates the College Fars, a ballistic anti-ship missile with a terminal guidance system designed specifically to hit moving naval vessels, a ballistic missile traveling at supersonic speeds curving down onto a ship. This is a weapon that even the most advanced naval defense systems struggle to intercept. Iran operates a fleet of submarines, including the domestically built Fate class and the Ghadir class, submarines perfectly sized for shallow water operations in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Ормуз. These submarines are virtually undetectable in the shallow, acoustically complex waters of the strait, where background noise, thermoclines, and the sheer volume of commercial traffic create a nightmare environment for anti-submarine warfare. In 2015, an Iranian submarine successfully tracked a U.S. carrier strike group for an extended period without being detected, a demonstration of capability that sent shockwaves through the American naval establishment. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, separate from Iran's conventional navy, specializes in exactly the kind of swarm tactics that destroyed Van Riper's fictional fleet in the 2002 war games. They operate hundreds of small, fast attack craft armed with rockets, torpedoes, and machine guns. These boats can achieve speeds of over 70 knots. They are cheap, disposable, and terrifying in swarms. The doctrine is simple and devastating. Overwhelm a ship's close-range defense systems by attacking from multiple directions simultaneously with dozens or hundreds of craft. No matter how advanced a warship's phalanx close-in weapon system or its missile defense suite, there is a limit to how many simultaneous targets it can track and engage. Iran is designed to exceed that limit. Iran possesses one of the largest and most sophisticated sea mine inventories in the world, estimated at over 5,000 mines of various types. These include sophisticated influence mines that can be triggered by the acoustic signature of specific ship types, contact mines, and rocket-propelled mines that can be deployed rapidly from surface vessels or submarines. Mining the Strait of Hormuz would not close it instantly, but clearing those mines would take weeks to months, even with the entire US Navy committed to the task. Every day of mine clearing operations would be conducted under constant threat of missile and swarm attack. Perhaps Iran's most rapidly advancing capability. Iran has developed an extensive drone warfare program both for surveillance and for attack. Their Shahed series drones adapted for naval warfare can be launched in swarms from coastal positions or from vessels disguised as commercial craft. These drones have demonstrated their lethality in the Yemen conflict, where Houthi forces using Iranian-supplied drones have attacked oil infrastructure across the region with devastating precision. Iran has also demonstrated the ability to deploy long-range attack drones to harass shipping throughout the Persian Gulf. Along Iran's entire coastline bordering the strait, Iran has deployed layered coastal defense batteries combining anti-ship missiles, air defense systems, and conventional artillery. These are dispersed, hardened, and in many cases mobile, making them extremely difficult to destroy in a preemptive strike. The besieged, Iran's paramilitary force, has trained specifically to operate these systems as part of a distributed, decentralized defense network. Even if the United States destroyed 80% of these systems in an opening strike, the remaining 20% would still represent a lethal threat to naval operations. Let's do the math. Not in bullets, not in hardware specs, but in what a conflict would actually mean. To establish military control of the Strait of Hormuz, the United States would need to destroy Iran's coastal missile batteries, neutralize its submarine fleet, clear thousands of sea mines, defeat swarm attack forces, suppress drone attacks, and maintain all of this continuously because Iran would reconstitute its capabilities as fast as they were destroyed. All of this would have to happen in one of the most hostile operating environments on Earth for a conventional navy, all of it under constant threat. Do the math on the cost of its global oil markets in free fall from the moment the first shot was fired. And here's the part that never gets talked about. Even if the United States successfully executed all of that, and it would be the most expensive, bloody, and complex military operation since World War II, it still wouldn't own the strait, it would own the water. Iran would still be on the shore, its missiles would still be in the mountains, its drones would still be flying, the fight would never end. This is the trap. You cannot occupy a body of water. You cannot hold a strait militarily when a hostile power controls both coastlines and has buried its weapons in mountains you cannot fully neutralize. Military experts call this the porcupine strategy. Iran doesn't need to win. It just needs to make the cost of winning unacceptable to its adversary. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway situated between Iran to the north and Oman and the United Arab Emirates to the south. At its narrowest point, the shipping lane is just 2 miles wide in each direction. 2 miles. That's narrower than Manhattan Island. Through those 2-mile-wide lanes, every single day, tankers carry between 17 and 21 million barrels of oil. That represents roughly 20 to 21% of the world's total petroleum liquids consumption. Japan gets 87% of its oil imports through this strait. South Korea 78%, China 40%, India 60%. Even the United States, despite its domestic energy boom, has allies and trading partners whose entire economies depend on this waterway staying open. Close the Strait of Hormuz, and within weeks you would trigger the most catastrophic global economic crisis since the 1970s, oil shock except 10 times worse. Global oil prices would surge past $200 per barrel. Supply chains would collapse. Industries would shut down. Governments would face mass civil unrest. This is not just a military asset, it is a weapon of mass economic destruction, and Iran is sitting right on top of it. Iran's coastline runs along the entire northern edge of the strait. Its territory literally overlooks the shipping lanes. The Tund Islands and Abu Musa Island, strategically located in the middle of the strait, are controlled by Iran, giving it forward-positioned military real estate directly in the path of tanker traffic. From Iranian shores to the center of the shipping lane is less than 25 miles, a distance that modern missiles can cover in under 2 minutes. So what does this all mean? It means that military power, real military power in the 21st century, is not about who has the biggest ships or the most nuclear warheads. It's about geography, it's about asymmetry, it's about understanding what kind of war your enemy is actually prepared to fight and recognizing when you are standing at the entrance to a trap. Iran has spent 4 decades building the perfect trap, a 21-mile wide trap lined with missiles, mines, submarines, swarms, and drones. A trap that, if triggered, would not just destroy naval assets, it would destroy the global economy, destabilize every American ally in the Middle East, and hand America's geopolitical rivals the greatest gift they could ever receive. The United States cannot take the Strait of Hormuz, not because its military isn't powerful enough, but because taking it is impossible without costs that no rational nation would ever willingly pay. The Strait of Hormuz is Iran's trump card, and everyone in Washington knows it. The real question is not whether America can take the strait. The real question is what happens on the day Iran decides to actually play that card. That is the conversation the world needs to be having.